Brings us right pretty much on time to our 5:45 special council meeting. And Becky Coletta, I believe that you will be taking over from here.
Sure. Okay, so it is 5:45, which is the posted time, and we will call the Old Colony Planning Council special meeting to order. And if I could have the accessibility statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we're going to move on to roll call.
Correct. Megan, if you can just pull up the list, please. Thank you. Abington,
Present.
Avon,
Alternate present.
thank you. Bridgewater,
Present.
Brockton,
Present.
Duxbury,
Present.
East Bridgewater. I don't think Peter's here yet. I know Easton's unable to make it. Halifax is not here. Rhonda Nyman's here. Not Rhonda.
Present.
Thank you. Hanson,
Present.
Kingston,
Present.
Pembroke,
Present.
and I know Alicia's still here. Stoughton,
Present.
thank you, Mark. West Bridgewater and Whitman.
Present.
And just for those, Christine had a conflict for tonight, so she knew that the vote was up, but she didn't think it was appropriate. So anyway, so thank you. That is a quorum has been ascertained.
Thank you, Mary. So now I would like to see a motion to accept our October 2024 meeting minutes.
Motion so moved.
Thank you, Sandy.
Second.
Thanks, Val. Roll call, please.
Abington,
Abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
thank you. Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater,
Accept.
Brockton,
Accept.
Duxbury.
Accept.
East Bridgewater's not here. Hanover,
I'm gonna abstain. I was not at that meeting, Mary.
thank you, Rhonda. Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
That is unanimous.
Thank you all. Okay, do we have Jennifer Cook online
We
for
do.
the Clifton Larson Allen audit report presentation?
Great, I am here.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jennifer. If you want to go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Do you want me to share my screen, or it looks like Megan has my presentation?
Why don't you, let's have Megan do it, and that way you can focus on the presentation, Jennifer.
Absolutely. Okay.
One second.
All right. Perfect. You can go to the next slide. Just so agenda items, I'm just going to discuss the audit scope, as well as the audit opinions and required communications. I'll hit on some high-level financial statement highlights, and then some upcoming GASB standards, and then finally the plan for engagement finalization. So next slide. So what were we engaged to do? Report on the council's financial statements, that they were prepared in accordance with GAAP. We issue a GAO report, which is our evaluation of internal controls, as well as, if required, a management letter. We did not issue a management letter for this current year audit. Required governance communication letter. I will hit. You'll receive a formal letter, but I will hit on the high level items in this presentation, as well as a report on internal control over compliance with major programs, as well as compliance with those major programs. And then there is a tax return preparation for ROM. So next slide. So similar to prior years, you have 2 opinion units, business type activities, which is the council and ROM, and then fiduciary activities, which is your OPEB trust. Currently, the business type activities is a qualified opinion, and this is specifically related to not recording the liability with the state pension plan. I know this is an ongoing discussion, and I checked on the status, and hopefully this is continuing to move on. So we envision this going away, but unfortunately not this year yet. Unmodified opinion on the OPEB trust, and as well as for the federal awards audit, we issued an unmodified opinion there. We did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so happy to report that. I know we identified one last year, and management really took strides and improved the internal controls around that reconciliation routine, so really appreciate all of that. From a federal awards standpoint, we did have 2 major programs this year. So the typical aging cluster, which is your EOEA grants, as well as the highway planning and construction cluster, which is the MassDOT grants. We did not identify any material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies related to major programs, and no compliance findings. So very clean report all around. So really just want to thank management for being extremely responsive during the audit process, and taking the feedback and working together. And I appreciate this partnership. So next slide. So this is a required governance communications. You should have the draft of the financial statements. Note 2 outlines the significant accounting policies there. We did not have any new accounting standards that were needed to be implemented this year. We did not have any past adjustments that were identified. We did not have any difficulties or disagreements with management. There was no significant accounting estimates that require substantial judgment or particularly sensitive that would bring to this attention. The only other item is we're required to report in that letter is related to the qualification of the opinion, which is I just discussed, related to the lack of recognition of that net pension liability. Next slide. So I just did a quick high-level visual to see the changes in financial statements over the last couple of years. So if you go to the next slide. So this is just an excerpt from your MD&A. And so really the big swings here, what you'll see is current liabilities. The increase there is really related to the increase in grant expenses and the timing of payment of those. Your non-current liabilities, you'll see a huge swing down, and that relates to the decrease in your OPEB liability. Everything else from a change between 24 and 23 pretty much changed relatively consistent. The deferred inflows and outflows directly relate to your OPEB trust as well. And so you'll see fluxes with that each year. All right, next slide. So as I mentioned, there was a large increase related to expenses and grant funding. And so you'll see expenses pretty much correlated directly with revenues. I'd say most of the increase of that grant operating revenues relates to EOEA grants. And I know the DLTA, I might be throwing around acronyms, but the DLTA grants had a big increase as well this year. So continue to make efforts in increasing your grant funding, and so it looks very clean from a prior year to current year presentation. So next one. I just wanted to give a visual of the OPEB trust assets, right? As you continue to see, 22 is really the only year where you saw a decline in investment returns, but between your contributions to the trust as well as the investment performance, you can see is the steadily grow in that OPEB trust. And that's, again, directly reducing your OPEB liability and where we mentioned that decrease earlier. So before I go into the future GASB standards, I want to open up for any questions, comments from anybody on the board or from management.
Just from my perspective, Jennifer, first, I want to give so much appreciation to Brenda. I know your list, well, let me back up. The portal and the process, this is the second year that we have UCLA, your availability, but also that portal. But again, we found that there was probably a lot more questions this year than last year. I shouldn't say we, Brenda, working with management as well. But again, those are the things that this organization needs as we have grown with the number of grants, and we're going to continue to grow with grants. All the more reason why these checks and balances, but just extreme kudos to Brenda, along with Sean and Charlie and the managers of the departments. Again, good communication, strengthening where we are. And yes, I have a meeting on Friday to talk about the legislation for the state retirement, and hopefully this is probably the best year that we've seen about possible passage for us. So hopefully that will go away. But that's the only thing I would say from management on my end.
Thank you, Mary.
And Jennifer, if I could just pipe in for a second, this is Becky. I also wanted to thank Mary Waldron for leading this team. I also am very impressed by the work that everyone's doing, and with our team. I just want the council to understand that as delegates, we're responsible for overseeing and performing our fiduciary duty here. And it's so much easier because this process is so well run both by management and by CLA. So thank
you. Okay, great. So I will get into upcoming GASB standards and the potential impact for the council. So next slide. So GASB 101, this will be effective for your June 30th, 2025 audit. This is re-looking at how you record your compensated absences, and it's going to take a reevaluation of potential leaves that you wouldn't have recorded liabilities for in the past. And so I'll work closely with management on the potential impact and working through this for the next year's audit. Next slide. 102, this will be also effective for next year's audit. This is related to certain risk disclosures. And so what GASB is looking for is understanding concentrations and where the exposure is from a council perspective, and disclosing kind of, potential legislation impacts and how that could impact your financial statements. And so again, we'll work with management on what that looks like and this will only be a disclosure, not any type of liability or any activity from a financial statement standpoint. Next slide. 103, which is financial reporting models. So this one is 2 years from now. GASB continues to keep looking for opportunities to create consistency between financial reporting. And so you'll see some changes related to MD&A. Really, the presentation of proprietary fund statements, which is what you present on, is where I would see the impact, but it's typically going to be some reclassification presentation issues, but I don't foresee any significant changes to what you have been typically seeing. Next one. So it says future GASB, but this is actually GASB 104. And this is, again, creating consistency between governments on your classification of non-financial assets. So you currently do have lease assets as well as capital assets, and making sure the consistent presentation. And that's, again, 2 years from now for June 30th, 2026. Last but not least, so you do have the draft right now, and so I have provided the representation of pending approval from the council today. We'll get that representation letter signed, and we plan to get the financial statements issued in final form this week. And so that is the plan for finalization of the audit engagement. And then last but not least is I'll open it up for any additional questions, comments.
Do we have any questions from the council? I appreciate so many people coming on and making sure that we're overseeing this process. Mary, what is our action item? Is it to accept the audit report?
Correct. Yes.
So we need a motion to accept the audit report.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Val and Stephen.
On the roll call, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater.
Accept.
Thank you, Sandy. Brockton,
Accept.
Duxbury,
Abstain.
Hanover,
Accept.
Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
That is unanimous.
Thank you, Mary. So as we look at our council items, we also have a report from a nominating committee to the council as a whole on the changes in our council. Has Frank been able to get online?
No, he's not. I think what I would ask is maybe Stephen to report out just,
In terms of,
I think
Okay.
what it is just the nominating
Okay.
committee as a report as a whole. So it will be the acceptance of Yolanda's
Yolanda.
resignation and the other items.
okay, so, okay, for anybody who missed our earlier meeting, I'd just like to report out that we did accept the resignation of at-large delegate Yolanda Spinola, who's going to be becoming the Brockton delegate for OCPC, and in his place will be renamed Christine Joy as the new at-large delegate. And also as treasurer, we've accepted the resignation of Frank Staffia, who was serving as interim treasurer for the council. And in his place, we have nominated Christine Joy to be our new treasurer. So, and that was accepted unanimously for all four appointments, or four changes, excuse me.
Thank you so much, Stephen. So I think what I'd like to see here is a motion to accept the nominating committee report and the changes in our delegate and our treasurer, our at-large delegate and our treasurer that were contained in that report.
So
I'll
moved.
I'll second that.
Is that Allison and Stephen?
Yes, correct. On the
Thank you. Roll call, Mary?
Abington,
Accept,
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater,
Accept.
Brockton,
Accept.
Duxbury,
Accept.
Hanover,
Accept.
Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Stoughton,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
That is unanimous.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone, for doing this special council meeting. Our next meeting will actually be the annual summit on Wednesday, December 4th, which will be held in place of our November council meeting. So I'm hoping to see everyone in person on December 4th. And with that, unless someone has a new topic, I would say it's time for a motion to adjourn.
Motion so moved.
Thank you, Sandy.
Second.
Thanks, Allison. Okay, motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a good night. See you on the 4th.
I don't
Alrighty.
see you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes,
You
Thank
too,
you.
Mary.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.